नंदन भज जनरंजन जमुनतीरावनचारी जमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रजचंद्ररंजन यशोदानंदन व्रजचंद्ररंजन मुनतीरावनचारी जमुनतीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय राधा रासबिहारी राधा रासबिहारी राधे जय गौरांगी बैंगलोरीश्वर गौरांगी बैंगलोरीश्वर गौरांगी जय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल हरि नाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र शत His Divine Grace of Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र शत His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नमाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ श्री जी गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ षट गोस्वामी प्रभु गण की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय द्वारिका धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, कावेरी माई की जय, भक्ति देव की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय, ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, हिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories and glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktirabhavati Naistiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangurangayate Grim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurudinatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Welcome all the devotees to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. And we're going to continue our discussion from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9. And this Chapter 9 is titled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. And today we're going to be discussing the fourth and the fifth verse. So let's go into the fourth verse. Satam vivakshatam atadvidam harir ज्ञानत्वस्य सर्वस्य चारिते अवस्थिता कृतञ्जलिं ब्रह्ममायेन काम्बुना पस्पर्श बालं कृपया कपोले सतं विवाका सतम् अतद्विदं हरिं नावत्स सर्वस्य चारिदे अवस्थिता कृतञ्जलिं ब्रह्मरामाय काम्बुना परस्परस्य बालं कृपया कपोले सातं विवकस्तम् अतद्विदं हरिर्नात्वस्य सर्वस्य चारिदय अवस्थिता कृतञ्जलिं ब्रह्म मायेन काम्बुना परस्परस्य बालं कृपया कपोले. Word-to-word translation. Saha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tam Dhruva Maharaj, Vivakastam, wanting to offer prayers describing his qualities, Atat Vidam, not experienced at all, Harin, the personality of Godhead, Natva, having understood, Asya of Dhruva Maharaj, Sarvasya of everyone, Cha and Hridi in the heart, Avasthita being situated, Krita Anjilim situated with folded hands, Brahmamayena just consistent with the words of the Vedic hymns, Kambuna with his conch shell, Pasparasa touched, Balam the boy, Kripaya out of causeless mercy, Kapole on the forehead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Although Dhruv Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language, but because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position. Out of his causeless mercy, he touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Every devotee wants to chant the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Devotees are always interested in hearing about the Lord's transcendental qualities, and they are always eager to glorify these qualities. But sometimes they feel inconvenienced by humbleness. The personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, specifically gives a devotee intelligence to describe them. It is therefore understood that when a devotee writes or speaks about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his words are dictated by the Lord from within. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita chapter. To those who constantly engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord from within dictates what to do next in order to serve him. When Dhruva Maharaj felt hesitant, not knowing how to describe the Lord for want of sufficient experience, the Lord, out of his causeless mercy, touched his conch shell to Dhruva's forehead, and he was transcendentally inspired. This transcendental inspiration is called Brahma Maya, because when one is thus inspired, the sound he produces exactly corresponds to the sound vibration of the Vedas. This is not an ordinary sound vibration of the material world. Therefore, the sound vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, although presented in ordinary alphabet, should not be taken as mundane or material. Let's continue with the fifth verse as well. Savai tadaiva pratipaditam kiram daivim parignata paramatma nirayaya tam bhakti bhavo Vaigranda astavasam parishruto shavastam druvashite. Word to word translation for the fifth verse. Sa Dhruva Maharaj va certainly tada at the time eva just pratipaditam having attained giram speech daivim transcendental parignata understood para atma of the super soul, nirnaya the conclusion, tam to the Lord, bhakti bhava situated in devotional service, abhyagranat offers prayers, astavaram without any hasty conclusions, parishruta widely known, purushravasam whose fame, Durvashiti, Dhruva, whose planet would not be annihilated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. At the time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities in accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread. Dhruva, who is in the future, would receive planet which would never be annihilated. Even during the time of dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. There are many important items to be considered in this verse. First of all, the relationship between the absolute truth and the relative material and spiritual energies is here understood by the student who has complete knowledge of the Vedic literature. Dhruva Maharaj never went to any school or academic teacher to learn the Vedic conclusion. But because of his devotional service to the Lord, as soon as the Lord appeared and touched his forehead with his conch shell, automatically the entire Vedic conclusions were revealed to him. That is the process of understanding the Vedic literature. One cannot understand it simply by academic learning. The Vedas indicate that only to one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord, as well as the spiritual master in the Vedic conclusion revealed. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is that he engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord according to the orders of his spiritual master, Narada Muni. As a result of his rendering such devotional service with great determination and austerity, the personality of God had personally manifested himself before him. Dhruva was only a child. He wanted to offer nice prayers to the Lord, but because he lacked sufficient knowledge, he hesitated. But by the mercy of the Lord, as soon as the Lord's conch shell touched his forehead, he became completely aware of the Vedic conclusions. That conclusion is based on proper understanding of the difference between Jiva and Paramatma, the individual soul and the super soul. The individual soul is forever a servant of the super soul, and therefore his relationship with the super soul is to offer service. This is called Bhakti Yoga or Bhakti Bhava. Dhruva Maharaj offered his prayers to the Lord not in the way of the impersonalist philosophers, but as a devotee. Therefore, it is clearly said here, Bhakti Bhava, the only prayers worth offering are those offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose reputation is spread far and wide. Dhruva Maharaj wanted to have the kingdom of his father, but his father refused even to allow him to get onto his lap. In order to fulfill his desire, the Lord had already created a planet known as Polestar, Dhruvaloka, which was never to be annihilated even at the time of dissolution of the universe. Dhruva Maharaj attained his perfection not by acting hastily, but by patiently executing the orders of a spiritual master. And therefore, he became so successful that he saw the Lord face to face. Now he was further enabled by the causeless mercy of the Lord to offer fitting prayers to the Lord, to glorify or to offer prayers unto the Supreme. One needs the Lord's mercy. One cannot write to glorify the Lord unless one is endowed with his causeless mercy. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 9, chapter titled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. And the verse that we discussed today, or we're going to discuss today, or we read now, is verse number 4 and 5. Omagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Raghunatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We welcome all the devotees to this morning discussion, and we are continuing our conversation from where we left. Dhruva Maharaj in the beginning had this problem, saying that his father did not allow him to sit on his lap, goes crying to his mother Suniti and tells her that this is not fair. I also equally deserve the lap of my father. And my foster mother did not allow me to sit on his lap. And she said, if you have to sit on the lap of your father, you have to be born out of my womb. So that was an insult. And King himself could not do anything because he was bound by his words, which he had given to Suruchi. With this, Mother Suniti tells him that, why do you want to look at smaller things? Look at a bigger thing. And Dhruva Maharaj decides that I would like to have a kingdom bigger than that of my father. And when he decides to do this, he's asking his mother what to do. Mother says, you'll have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. Where is he found? He's found in the forest, deep in the forest. So he decides, saying that I will not settle down for anything less than this. I want a bigger kingdom than my father. And he starts his journey to the forest. On the way, meets Narad Muni. And Narad Muni says, hey, you're a small boy. How can you go there? There are lions and there are so many wild animals. They will eat you up. He says, I'm not scared. What will you eat there? There is nothing available. I will eat the berries. I will eat the fruits. I will eat the grass. There are no luxuries there. I don't need any luxuries. There are no, servants there. There are no other people to help you. He says, I will be all alone with the mercy of the Lord. With this determination that Narad Muni sees, he accepts him as his disciple and blesses him, saying that, so be it. Please go and meditate. And he also guides him. So here, the importance of a guru is realized, saying that you may have determination, but unless you have the mercy of the spiritual master, you may not be able to achieve anything. Yeah. You can get Krishna only because of a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master. And Narad Muni guides him as to how he has to go, what he has to do. Though initially he's trying to test him, saying that, no, you will not be able to do it. You're such a small boy. What will you do? But Dhruv Maharaj, being very determined, decides that he's not going to leave it there. He wants what he wants. And well, that was the material desire that he had, not that he had any spiritual desire. Having a kingdom bigger than that of his father was a material desire. It was not a spiritual desire. But still, Narad Muni reads his heart, reads his mind, and blesses him. And then Dhruv Maharaj goes into the forest and starts his meditation, prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's a small boy, so he doesn't know the Vedas. In the last purport also, we saw that he has never learned Sanskrit. He has never gone into formal education or a Gurukul. So he doesn't know how to offer prayers. So he starts chanting the holy name of the Lord there, and Lord appears in his heart. And as we see in the previous verses, the first, second, and third verse, the Lord actually boards onto Garuda and comes and stands in front of Dhruv Maharaj. The moment Dhruv Maharaj opens his eyes, he sees the Lord right in front of him. I don't think he could ask for anything more than that. Now, Dhruv Maharaj is wanting to offer wonderful, beautiful prayers because the Supreme Personality of Godhead always deserves it. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So our prayers should always be reserved for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's no praise to be given to somebody else. The materialist people, the who's who of the so-called material society, the superstars, the cinema stars or the cricket stars or the political stars. No, we have to reserve our glorification only for the Lord. The Lord is to be glorified in all circumstances because everything emanates from the Lord. Whatever qualities a politician or a superstar or a cricket star has is all the mercy of the Lord that comes in. So one needs to realize that the source has to be worshipped and not the outcome. So the source here is Krishna. It's like pouring water to all the leaves and the twigs and the flowers and the fruits of a tree. If you want a tree to really grow, you have to pour water to the root. And here, if we worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if we glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we don't need to do anything else. We don't need to glorify any of the materialistic people. Yes, I would like to mention this one more thing here, that we should also glorify the Vaishnavas because we cannot reach Krishna directly. We have to glorify our Guru. We have to glorify Vaishnavas, because of whom you can get the mercy of the Lord. So, glorifying materialist people is something which is not required, but at the same time, we have to glorify Guru and the Vaishnavas. apart from Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, here in this verse today that we're reading, there are beautiful things which are covered. And Srila Prabhupada writes it so nicely that we may not have qualities to do anything, but we will get all the qualities just by the mercy of the Lord. Like what we see here, Guru Maharaj, a small boy who was inexperienced, could not adjust himself, does not know the Vedic conclusions, does not know how to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just standing in front of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he doesn't know what to do. And the Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, was also situated in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, guides him. He actually understands what is happening in the mind of, or what is happening in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, and guides him with his causeless mercy. The easiest thing for the Lord to do is he just touched the conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj. Yeah. And Dhruva Maharaj was just folding his hands and standing in front of him. Nothing that he was doing. But the Lord understood his heart and just touched the conch shell to his forehead. And just by touching the conch shell, Dhruva Maharaj started speaking so nice prayers. And then, because the transcendental inspiration that came in from the conch shell, which is called Brahma Maya. Sorry. So here it is in the purport, it is said that, the sound that one produces exactly corresponds to the sound vibration of the Vedas. And the sound vibration of the Vedas is not an ordinary sound of the material world. Therefore, the sound vibration of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which we chant every day, although present in the ordinary alphabet, somebody will say H-A-R-E, Hare. Hare is a simple, ordinary alphabet that we see. It is, written in English, which anybody can understand, or any other language which anybody can understand. It could be Hindi, English, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, any language, ordinary alphabet, you can write Hare Krishna Mahamantra. But it should not be taken as the material or mundane. It is very, very transcendental, and that is what comes from Krishna. Whatever comes from Krishna is very, very transcendental. And in the next verse, says, once on touching the conch on the head of Dhruva Maharaj, he becomes perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusions. And then he understood the truth, the absolute truth. He understood his relationship with all the entities, including the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Dhruva, who is in the future would receive a planet, would never be annihilated. So the Lord tells him that I will give you a planet, which is called Dhruva Loka. In English, we call it as pole star. And this planet would never be annihilated, even during the time of the dissolution. It continues to be there. Yeah. And Dhruva Maharaj is offering prayers after prayer, prayers after prayer. The young boy does not know anything 5 minutes back. Just by touch of that conch shell, he gets the Brahma Maya. And because of Brahma Maya, he keeps glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. First of all, we have to understand this by Vedic injunctions, the Vedic knowledge, which is very important. Dhruva Maharaj never went to any school, which we all know. He had never had an academic teacher. Yeah. At the same time, but because of his devotional service to the Lord, as soon as the Lord appeared and touched his forehead with the conch shell, automatically the entire Vedic conclusion was revealed to him. This is the process of understanding the Vedic literature. One cannot understand simply by academic learning. He cannot just understand this by going to the school and reading books and all of that. The Vedas indicate that only one who has unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the spiritual master, the Vedic conclusion will be revealed. Otherwise, it is useless. Nobody can gain this knowledge. Srila Prabhupada, when he went to the West, he would go to some of these universities and where they had this department of Vedic literature, or they had this department of Bhagavad Gita, they had this department of Indian culture. And Srila Prabhupada would say that, these people, the professors there, do not understand the Vedic conclusion because it is not revealed to them. He would be smoking smoking the cigar on one hand and reading Bhagavad Gita on the other hand. He says, how will you get understanding of this? First is you have to have unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead and unflinching faith in the spiritual master. And then only Vedic conclusions can be revealed. That is why, while we take up to Krishna consciousness, it is always told that you should have faith. Faith can move mountains. Yes, it may look like a very simple statement, but yes, faith can move mountains. And you should have full faith in the words of the spiritual master, because he is the only one who knows the Vedic conclusions, or he is the only one who has the knowledge of the Vedas. Yeah. And here, the example of Dhruv Maharaj is that, he engaged himself in devotional service to the Lord as per the orders of his spiritual master. Yeah. When Dhruv Maharaj met Narad Muni in the forest, he gave him instructions. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Very simple instructions. And Dhruv Maharaj, without deviating from those Vedic injunctions or the guidance which are given to him or the instructions which are given to him, followed. He rendered devotional service and with great determination and austerity. The personality of Godhead had to himself come before him because he was a great devotee of the Lord, and he was also ordained or blessed by a spiritual master like Narad Muni. Well, Dhruv Maharaj, as we discussed, was only a small boy. He wanted to offer nice prayers, but because he didn't know any knowledge, he was hesitant. He was just standing in front of him, just standing like a statue, what to say. But in his heart, he knew that he wanted to offer prayers. The Lord being in the heart, as soon as the conch shell touched, he started becoming completely aware of the Vedic conclusions. And this proper understanding of difference between Jiva and Paramatma came into him. The individual soul and the super soul, that is the difference that he saw. And this is what is called as Bhakti Yoga. The relationship with the Supreme Soul to offer service is called Bhakti Yoga. What do we mean by Bhakti Yoga? Many times people ask us, what is Bhakti Yoga? First is to understand our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And second is to offer our service. Our relationship is first, and then to offer our service to the Super Soul. It's called Bhakti Yoga, or it is called Bhakti Bhava also. Dhruv Maharaj actually offered his prayers to the Lord, not the way the impersonalist philosophers offer, but as a devotee. Therefore, it is clearly said that it is Bhakti Bhava. The only prayers worth offering are those offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose reputation is spread far and wide. Yeah, in the initial stage, he started off thinking that I wanted to have a kingdom of his father, but his father refused to even allow him to sit on his lap. In order to fulfill his desire, the Lord had already created a planet known as Polestar, Dhruv. So, if we offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of God, and many times, devotees have this feeling saying that I don't know how to offer the prayers, I'm not qualified, I don't have knowledge of the Sanskrit language, I can't use, appropriate language. But then one needs to just surrender unto a spiritual master, and then Krishna will come and bless him. And once Krishna blesses, I think sky is the limit. There is no limit at all. You can glorify the Lord, speak about the Lord, do a lot of service to the Lord. So this all has to come in from the service of the Lord. Yeah. So one did not have qualification, but one gets qualified because the blessings of a spiritual master, and then glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And to glorify and offer prayers unto Supreme Personality of Godhead or to the Lord, one needs Lord's mercy. And unless one is blessed with the causeless mercy of the Lord, one can't even take steps, even glorify him. He can't even use few words to glorify the Lord. You see, there are so many so-called qualified, well-read people, but then they're not able to glorify the Lord because the Lord has not given them the causeless mercy. Yeah, we can't think that I am to be endowed. I have the power, I have the energy, I have the knowledge. No, the Lord has to give somebody that power. He has to give that energy to speak or glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are very important things that one needs to. But in the material world, what happens is, okay, I remember a very nice story which I just heard recently. There's one fine day, Krishna is having lunch in Dwarika, and while having lunch, Rukmini mother is serving him, and Krishna is alone. There's nobody else who's there. And the tradition is very clear that once Krishna has lunch only, then Mother Rukmini will have lunch. And while having this lunch, Krishna is laughing. Or I would not laughing, actually smiling. And Mother Rukmini is perplexed. She looks around. There is nobody present. There's nothing that Krishna is doing other than honoring the Hoga. He's honoring lunch. And Mother Rukmini asked him, saying that, what are you smiling about? What are you thinking about? So he says, no, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. But then on insistence of Mother Rukmini, he says, I was just looking at the ant which was moving around with a piece of jaggery. So just what does that mean? So he says, this ant which is going today, that Jiva was 21 times Indra. Indra is the most powerful system or most powerful person in the material universe. But he is today walking with a small piece of jaggery. So Mother Rukmini says, can you explain me in detail what he is saying? He says, the sense gratificatory process which one has does not come to an end unless one surrenders into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He still wants to, continue honoring his senses or satisfying one's senses. Despite being the king of the material universe for 21 times, he has not given up the sense gratificatory process or the desire to gratify the senses. Unless we give away the desire to, gratify the senses, we will never be successful in our life. So here, the example was given of, in the story, the example is given saying that even Indra can fall down to that level and become an ant just to satisfy the senses. So it is very important that all of us have sense perception, all of us have sense desires. But then Sri Prabhupada used this very nice word and a very nice analogy saying that we should have desire, but we should dovetail those desires in the service of the Lord. How do we dovetail our desires? You have desire to, eat nice food stuff. Fine, no problem. Offer everything nice to Krishna and then honor it as prasad. You're not satisfying, or you're not actually doing material sense gratification. Yeah. Then if you have desire to travel, you travel to dhams. You go to Dwarika, you go to Jagannath Puri, you go to Vrindavan, you go to Mayapur, you go to, all the other kshetras like Ananda Padmanabha Swami temple in Kerala, go to Melakote in Karnataka, go to Dwarika in Gujarat, go to so many other places which are there. So how do we dovetail the activities? You are a very knowledgeable person. You like to write nice glorification. Write the glorification of the Lord. Dovetail your knowledge, dovetail your activity into the service of the Lord. Then your sense gratificatory desire will turn into service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna will give you knowledge. There's absolutely no problem. If you have desire that I want to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna will give you the knowledge. Krishna will give you all the ability. Krishna will give you the background as to how you can do it. Here, a small boy of 5 or 6 years, Dhruv Maharaj did not know how to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But just one touch of the conch on his forehead, he gained all the knowledge. He had no formal education at all. He never went to Gurukul. He never went to school. But still, he had this knowledge which came into him. So Krishna fulfills all our desires. It is only that we should have that little desire of serving Krishna, little desire of, glorifying the Lord, little desire of preaching the holy name of the Lord. He will give you the knowledge. He'll give you the Vani. He will give you the vocabulary, and everything can be given by Krishna. So this is what is covered in today's shloka. If there are any questions, I would like to take the questions, one or two, or maybe more. Or if there are any doubts or any clarifications, please go ahead and ask. Or if there are any corrections, please go ahead and make the corrections for me. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. Okay, so if there are no questions, then for my own benefit and the benefit of all the listeners today, I would like to read the translation of both the verses today because they're very important verses. Translation to the fourth verse of ninth chapter of fourth canto. As we all know, the chapter is titled as Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home. The fourth shloka, the translation is, although Dhruva Maharaj was a small boy, he wanted to offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in suitable language. But because he was inexperienced, he could not adjust himself immediately. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, could understand Dhruva Maharaj's awkward position out of his causeless mercy and touched his conch shell to the forehead of Dhruva Maharaj, who stood before him with folded hands. Sorry, I should have shared this. Anyway, I can share it now. Okay, so this is the fourth verse, and let's go to the translation of the fifth verse. At that time, Dhruva Maharaj became perfectly aware of the Vedic conclusion and understood the absolute truth and his relationship with all living entities. In accordance with the line of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, whose fame is widespread, Dhruva, who in the future would receive a planet which would never be annihilated even during the dissolution, offered his deliberate and conclusive prayers. Very nice shlokas, I think, very important for all of us to read and understand them. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. And I thank the temple management to give me this opportunity of this seva of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And thank you very much for your patient hearing again. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru Maharaj ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So we will end the session here. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki